Hey everyone, John here in Germany for Gamescom, and we've just done a video on Kirby Air Riders and Hollow Knight Silksong, both absolutely wonderful, please check that out. But I've also played a bunch of other stuff, and I think this is some of the more interesting stuff because a lot of these are unknown quantities. For example, we're going to be talking about Elden Ring and Final Fantasy VII Remake and FC26 on the Switch 2, which we haven't really seen, right? Like, Elden Ring was shown off in the big Switch 2 Direct very, very briefly. However, I have played in the open world, I've played the beginning, I've messed around with the new classes, so let's start with Elden Ring a moment. Now, Elden Ring looked rather rough when it was shown off in the Direct back in April. And unfortunately, it is still a bit rough. So I started playing in handheld mode, right at the beginning of the game, and when you push those doors open, the first thing you see is a big horizon with fog, and that fog plummeted the frame rate. Don't look at the fog, avert the camera. The game seems to run at 30 FPS and then goes way below when anything a little bit challenging comes up, and that includes bosses. So that there's one boss in Elden Ring who you can defeat, but most players will probably lose to them, and then you get your healing item. And that boss did tank the frame rate, which is a big shame. And then you go into the open world, and it just feels unstable. They can't hit 30. I tried docked. Docked is better, but not perfect. I wasn't noticing the drastic drops as handheld mode, but it definitely wasn't great, which is a huge shame. It's worth noting, on PlayStation 5 and Series X, Elden Ring has issues there too. It's not a locked 60 over there. And on PS4 and Xbox One, there are issues there too. From Software games usually have issues, but they're not this bad. Usually they run at 30 with like frame pacing issues, or run at 60 but dip into the 50s or high 40s. It's never really locked at 30 but going all the way down this low, even in mundane sections. This is low by From Software standards. Now, the game is not finished. There is time to remedy this. But basically what you saw in the debut trailer back in April is pretty representative of how it actually plays. And I did try to record some footage, but they stopped me. They say you cannot do that. You cannot show the world how poor... They didn't say that. Basically, footage isn't allowed, but the game looks poor, and maybe that's why footage isn't allowed. Like, visually, it actually looks pretty good. I thought the resolution was pretty clear. The game didn't look compromised, but the frame rate absolutely was. And I really hope this is resolved, because Dark Souls on the Switch 1 was a really nice port, and my favorite way to play the game. Just nice portable Dark Souls. It is locked at 30, but it plays great on the Switch 1, and the Switch 2. But Elden Ring right now isn't there. Massive shame, because this would be a delightful platform for Elden Ring. Anyway, let's keep going. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I got to play as well. This was the first boss of the game when you're in the reactor, and my first impression, the hair looks a bit weird. I played this both in handheld and docked as well. The hair has a lot of dithering, which is strange because the rest of the image quality is pretty great. I think the dithering is probably DLSS being a bit funky with all the hair strands. But otherwise, the game ran really well. It seems like it's locked at 30, which is a bit disappointing, but not unexpected. And it was just a good experience. The texture quality looked a little bit lower than other versions of the game. Maybe even PlayStation 4. We'd have to compare them directly, but I definitely looked at it and thought this looks a little bit worse than I remember. However, the general experience was still great. It's still Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it's in the palm of your hands now. And playing in handheld mode, it was a wow moment. And seeing all these particle effects flying everywhere, it looked stunning. I had to get my grasp back, because I haven't played Final Fantasy VII in a while, so the combat system... I had to remember it again, and it was all in German, so the tutorial hints weren't helping, but I managed to get through the battle and play a huge chunk of the reactor section, and it felt really stable. The frame rate wasn't really dipping, it looked good other than the weird hair dithering, and again, this game isn't finished either, so it doesn't even have a release date, nor does Elden Ring. So there's time to fix these little things up, but as of right now, I think FF7 Remake is good, but not quite, excellent Miracle Switch 2 port tier. It's just like, a pretty good version of FF7 Remake, and probably a nice way to play the game if you haven't before, and also a nice way to re-experience it. I also saw FC26, EA's, FIFA And we recently looked at Madden. That was a little bit rough. And I think this one is also not quite at 2K's level. 2K did really well with WWE. FC26 felt pretty good. The close-ups look really good. When you score a goal or something happens, you get close-ups of the characters. They look really good. General gameplay, the frame rate felt pretty high. I can't give you a solid figure. I don't know if it's dipping around. We'll have to evaluate that when we have our footage. But I'd say the general gameplay looked a bit fuzzy. When you have the camera zoomed all the way out, the resolution, you could see the pixels. You can see the pixels around the characters. It definitely isn't premium FC26 tier. But I know that's not really the point, because for the most of the Switch One's life, they had the exact same FIFA game. That changed in the last year or two. But I've got a friend who spent like 100 hours in FIFA 19 or something. So for that kind of person, they want to know, is the gameplay there? And yes, it is. This is the PlayStation 5 FC game. It's got all the mechanics, all the modes, everything is there. The only thing compromised is the visuals. And it's not compromised to a level where I'd say that this is worth avoiding. If you want portable FC26, this is that. It's not a showcase, but it is a good version of that game. And, it's fine. It's okay. We'll be checking this out properly when we're at home with the review code when we can, so we'll give you all the frame rate analysis and a deeper dive. I'm not a good FIFA player, but I thought this was fine. And then we're on to a really cool game. Pac-Man World 2. I checked this out with Bandai Namco, and I played the PlayStation 5 version. This is coming to Switch too. There's also Sonic DLC, so you can play through Green Hill Zone from Sonic Generations as Pac-Man. Rad as hell. And I got to play an ice level with a little ice boss at the end. And I played this a long time ago when I was younger, but the memories came flooding back. Pac-Man World 2 is easily the best game in this series, and it was such a joy to come back to it. The more open environments really give Pac-Man World more of a flair. So if you played the first reroll, yeah, that's quite linear. It's like Crash Bandicoot style. This one, you can turn the camera around. There's some exploration. There's areas you don't have to go to. There's a little shrinking power-up, which, Astrobot would do like 15 years later. And it just looked really nice. Very loyal to the original. Very high frame rate as well. Just a really cool version of Pac-Man World 2. And for those who have heard how good this game is but never had the chance to try it before, yeah, this is the time to do it. Pac-Man World 2 is absolutely awesome, and Repack seems to just take everything that made the original great, but just update it a little bit. I'd love to do a visual comparison when we get our hands on with direct feed footage with the original, because there's a grittiness missing, I'd say. Things are a little bit cleaner, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe you don't want some grit. Maybe you just want some happy, colorful Pac-Man, and this is that. Didn't get a chance to play this on Switch too, but I imagine it's going to be very capable and look much like the PS5 version. So I had a good time with this. So a mixed bag across the board with third-party games. I'd say, FF7 Remake, a good showing. Elden Ring, a disappointing showing. FC26, okay, alright. Pac-Man World 2, delightful. I was a lot more positive about Kirby Air Riders and Hollow Knight Silksong, so check out that video if you want to. And again, these games are in development. There's time for that to change. We will have more videos from Gamescom soon. We've got some embargoed stuff, and also this is day one. There's still a bunch more days left. So thank you for tuning in, everybody, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.